Now, last week, many of you will know that we received some inflation data in South Africa, which showed or indicated that for the month of October, inflation in South Africa fell 2.8%, which is the lowest figure since June of 2020. So we have not seen inflation coming down this low since June of 2020, which is very interesting because this is going to make even the SA Reserve Bank to continue easing interest rates, because they know they've passed, or they are way past their target of inflation, which was 4.5%. Seeing SA inflation coming to 2.8%, I can tell you they are going to be aggressive when dropping interest rates. Now, why is inflation important to you as investors who are buying shares or who are investing into the stock market? Well, it's because you will know that real interest is not what you are seeing on your portfolio, but rather real interest is the interest that you have accumulated from your assets, from your shares, minus inflation. And knowing that inflation is this low in South Africa, it means that even those that are saving their monies in banks, they are making good returns, right? Or they are making a return. Their money is growing, because back then, I think a couple of months back, when inflation was over 7%, it was just not good, man, because real interest, it means that you would have to minus maybe the 4 or 5% you are making from your savings account. You would have to then minus that, of course, inflation from the actual savings account that was generating you 4 or 5%, which ends up making you losing money. You are not making money if you were saving during those times, but if you are saving now, even in the banks, you will make something, because real interest is the interest that your banks will give you minus the 2.8, which is the current inflation in South Africa. So same goes with shares. If your Sasol shares, if your Boxer shares, if your Purple Group shares, you are up 50% on each one of them, for argument's sake, it means that your real interest on those shares is 50 minus 2.8, which will give you 47.2%, right? So your real interest now, it's more because of inflation. So inflation is very important, guys, and you need to monitor this, because it tells you, or it gives you, how much your real interest is on your assets. It is important, because you can't just say you have 50%, when you know that the value of money right now, due to inflation, it's losing its rate. The losing rate for money, it's 2.8%. You cannot come and say you are making 50%. Yes, on that financial instrument you are making 50%, but the real interest, that's just the nominal interest, that's what you are making. But real interest, you must subtract inflation from those gains that you are seeing on your portfolio, from those gains that you are seeing on your shares, and then that is your real interest. So the higher the inflation, of course, is the lower the interest you will make on your shares, on your investments, which is something that you have to always have at the back of your mind. Something that is good now is, obviously, like I said, even those that are saving their monies in banks right now, they are making something. Their money is growing, because inflation is so low, in a way that the 4% that banks will give you, 5% up to 10%, they are now making sense. They're starting to make sense. You will see even maybe some of the investors also taking their monies to the banks, yes, for emergency, but also just to get that extra maybe 2-3%, which is something that is pretty interesting and amazing to see consumer price index or inflation coming this low. This, like I said, as a result, will make the SA Reserve Bank to be aggressive when dropping interest rates, which this will bring more good news to the SA consumers like you and me, because guess what? On our bonds repayments, on our loans that are linked to the current interest rates, or to where the interest rates of our country is at, we are going to definitely, of course, start seeing our repayments going down or dropping, which will give us a breather. We'll be able to do much more with the money that we receive. Though personally, I don't think it's good for you to drop your installments, because then you will probably extend the period you will have to pay for that loan. But it is good to those that are struggling. I think it will bring, or it will ease in terms of bringing some relief to them. But personally, me, I always take these interest rates drops as opportunities to obviously to be able to pay more on my loan so that I can quickly finish my loans, which is something that I always have at the back of my mind. It's good news even to me because I know the amount of money that I pay now, it's going to be more that will end up reducing my loan because the interests are now dropping, which is positive for me as a consumer living in South Africa. So yeah, man, I just thought I'd give you this quick update. Tell me what you think about this. Yeah, I think we should be able to see more good news coming from SA, especially from the Reserve Bank, when it comes to interest rates. And the more this inflation cools off, is the more you and me as investors will be very excited, or investors are excited to invest into this country. Because if inflation gets so high, I think the last time I checked, countries like Nigeria, let me quickly check, their inflation is over 30%, meaning that for you to make money in Nigeria, you have to be making over 30% in terms of interest, which if you are buying Nigerian, or if you are in Nigeria and you are buying assets there, or you are accumulating assets, real interest on you will be whatever your assets are giving you in terms of interest minus the 30% or the 33%, which is the current inflation in Nigeria, which you will see, or that tells you that it's no good. And investors don't want to invest into countries like that because inflation is just so unbearable. Why would you put your money? I mean, it's just bad. Anyways, I don't want to talk more about Nigeria, but I'm just making an example to say that this is how things can be bad if inflation is that high. Investors are not excited into investing into a country. Plus, on top of that, you get those that are investing having to work very hard. Even on businesses, they have to work extra hard. Shares, I don't even want to talk, because unless you have 35% gains on your shares, then you're not getting anything from the stock exchange, right? Which is something that, us sitting at 2.8%, it's just good, man. And I think we should consider ourselves lucky due to the policies that the country has placed that managed to regulate and bring down inflation from over 7% to now 2.8%. So otherwise, if you have not subscribed, like I said, hit that like button, comment and subscribe. And once you subscribe, hit on the notification bell so that at least you get notified on YouTube every time I drop a new content. Otherwise, that's all from me, and God bless you all.